Baroness Claire Fox. She's an independent peer and director of the Academy of Ideas. A very good morning to you.
Good morning,
Thank you very much. I know I want to talk to you about lots of other things, but do you want to just come in on and answer the question about whether or not the US action was right or the wrong thing to do? A question which apparently our Foreign Secretary David Lammy couldn't answer this morning for the BBC.
It was the right thing to do.
There you are. See, David? It's really easy. It's just really easy. And moving on.
I could talk at great length, but we'll move on. Yes.
Let's move on. A lot of things I want to talk to you about, but including, I mean, and this sounds so sort of petty when we're dealing with, you know, life and death and the threat of nuclear war and goodness knows what. But I think we were all a little bit excited when we saw on the BBC over the weekend a small moment of common sense when the news presenter Martine Croxall basically rejected woke gender-neutral language live on air. She was reporting advice for vulnerable people during heat waves. Again, you know, the elderly and it was pregnant people, and she immediately corrected it to women with a roll of her eyes. I spotted it, J.K. Rowling spotted it, said my new favourite BBC presenter. No doubt she'll be roasted over the coals by BBC bosses, will she not, for having done that? But I mean, these little moments of sanity are creeping in, aren't they, on the gender debate?
Yes, it does feel peculiar because we've just been talking about Iran, where women can have their eyes gouged out for showing a bit of hair or not wearing the right veil. So you can think, oh, is this a bit indulgent? But actually, it was that eye roll that was magnificent from Martina. She corrected the language. She rolled her eyes. She has had to close her, or, you know, turn off her account on X because she got so much abuse despite the support she got from J.K. Rowling and the rest of us. But I think that
that's why she got abuse.
Yeah, that's
so literally, factually correct. Pregnant people, yes, they're not people. They're a subset of people called women.
But the thing that's shocking is, of course, that the BBC had written that script for her. That was what was on the autocue, and I think that there is a real problem, which is that you know, the media have not caught up with reality in many instances and are still insisting on this nonsense. And it's the same with many institutions like the NHS, like universities. Some people absolutely aggressively saying we refuse to implement the clarity that was brought by, for example, the Supreme Court recently.
I'm always very brave. I'm impressed with these organisations, just very, very brave, and say we simply won't obey the law. And I mean, well, good luck with that. What I would like is any of the organisations that say we won't obey the law, when they're taken to court, as they will be, and when they lose, as they inevitably will be, I want those people sacked, and I want them, rather than the taxpayer, because often these are public bodies, to be paying the bill. I know there's going to be a protest next weekend over one of the, you know, a number of men identifying as trans, but clearly men, who were in women's prisons. I mean, again, we've had that Supreme Court ruling for quite a few months now, and yet there are still men in women's prisons when that is completely against the law.
Yeah, well, I believe that there's going to be a protest in Parliament, I think tomorrow or Wednesday, of trans activists, the other way around, saying that their human rights are under threat, which is obviously a nonsense. Because actually, as we know, the Supreme Court did not take one right from one trans person at all. They clarified that, in fact, affording made-up rights to trans people actually deprives women of equal rights and of single-sex provision. So, you know, there's a lot of protesting around. I mean, there's a lot still of people who are refusing to accept this. But I think that Martina does deserve some credit for that correction, because it's also a sign of something else, which is there's more and more people with the confidence now to say what they've always thought, even in a professional capacity. But I do find it galling that mainstream media have still and carry on insist on this, you know, bizarre,
using preferred
language. Exactly.
No, exactly. I have to say, when I write my sub column, I always put a note to sub-editors if it's on the trans issue. Do not change any of my pronouns in this. They are biologically correct. What was interesting, judges, according to new guidance issued to judges, they no longer have to refer to criminal defendants by the gender of their choice. And this has happened repeatedly, where women who have been raped or sexually assaulted, and the male assailant is in the court, and when they give evidence, they are required, along with all the court people, this big bloke is standing there, and they're required to refer to her and she, and by some, you know, made-up woman's name, and to refer to her penis. I mean, it's an abomination this has been forced to happen. But look, let's move on. There's other things I want to talk about. The Lords is dealing with a lot of things at the moment. We've got the assisted dying bill is going to be moving to the Lords. I'm interested to get your thoughts on that if we can. But also I want to talk about the new laws in terms of employment laws. And there is a big concern by a lot of businesses, and they've been written to by Tory chiefs over the weekend, basically saying you need to start standing up on this. This employment rights bill has gone through Parliament, gone through the Commons already. In terms of giving workers a hell of a lot more rights and a hell of a lot sooner from when they start work, as in on day one, not after 1 year or 2 years, various different rights, which many people are saying won't lead to workers getting better rights. It will lead to fewer workers getting jobs. What do you make of the bill?
Yeah, so the bill is finishing its committee stage tomorrow in the Lords. It's been a very, very long committee, I have to say, with quite a lot of us raising concerns. And I think it's like a lot of laws at the moment, which is if you hear that there's a bill that says, employment rights bill, enhancing employment rights, you think, oh, well, I'm for that. And I'm an old trade unionist, so I can kind of relate to that. And then you see this absolutely whopping, you should see it, the size of this bill is enormous, that the government has put forward that actually is going to lead to genuinely a loss of jobs.
Yeah.
Because it treats companies, all sorts of companies, from small micro businesses all the way through to huge corporations, exactly the same in many instances. It demands of them the most incredible regulations in terms of first day rights. So you can literally arrive at work, get sick and be off on the sick, and that's the end of that. Yeah. So what's going to happen is not that gives you a right, it's that employers are less likely to employ people.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to give people trials for the, in terms of you can have 3 months to try you out.
Yeah, because everyone can fake it in an interview. Can they fake it for the next 3 months? That's the thing.
There's all sorts of things like that. There's a huge amount of power being given to the trade unions. Now, I'm a trade union, being a trade unionist, I get that. But only 20%, I think, of the population, of the working population are in trade unions. They're treating every workplace as though it's a public sector workplace. They're basically saying that you don't need 50% to go out on strike. It can be 10%. They're initiating a wide range of imposed trade union rights on every workplace. So if you've got a family shop and the family are working in it, a trade union official now has the right to barge in and walk in and say there should be a trade union here. I mean, it's impertinent to say the least.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the name of women, I just do want to say this, they've got this absolutely ludicrous duty that they're imposing, which I put an amendment in against, which is on equality action plans on the gender pay gap. So the gender pay gap is more complicated than they think. That's the first thing. It would be huge amounts of bureaucracy. But listen, what's more, an imposition on every employer that they have to give menopause support. And that menopause support, which is not dictated, or they will be fined. They will be in trouble, right? They don't do it.
Speaking as a menopausal woman, I find that abominable.
Exactly. Can you imagine anything worse than HR sidling up to you and organising a set of things saying, do you need a fan? Are you all right? Do you want to talk about it? I mean, it's the most condescending nonsense you've ever heard of.
I thought women, I remember my mum's generation, they fought for women not to be talked about as just bundles of hormones. And now we're just going to go, oh, no, we can't possibly. Oh, God, there's too much more I want to talk to you about, which we haven't got time for. The clock is against us. But Baroness Claire Fox, I do believe you may be just the sanest person on everything. What can I say? Thank you very much, indeed, for joining us, Baroness Claire Fox.